Well, there you are, and here I am. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again. Vic Solo back with you with the Karaoke Chronicles Part 3. So if you watched Part 1 and 2, you're up to speed. If you haven't seen 1 and 2, go and watch those at your leisure if you'd like. Yeah, there is a bit of a chronology, but you don't really have to watch the one previous to enjoy the next one, because even though it is kind of a continuing story, the only real continuity is that it's my experiences with karaoke. But if you saw Part 2 last week, we left off at the Orchid of Hawaii, where I was visited by a friend named Flying Brian. To this day, I don't know what his last name was. We just knew him as Flying Brian. And he told me on a Saturday night at the Orchid of Hawaii that our good friend Carl Bach, who you might remember from Part 1, the guy who got me interested in karaoke in the first place, back at the Central Cafe in Middleborough, was playing at a different place that to which I had never been before. A place in Raynham, Massachusetts called Joe T's Pub and Billiards. And I'm sure there's a lot of folks out there that in southeastern Massachusetts that remember Joe T's, as it was affectionately called. Even though Joe T's Pub and Billiards is the full name, we just called it Joe T's. Not to be confused with JT's, that was a place in Rhode Island, but I digress. So Brian had told me that Carl was playing there on Sunday night. Well, this obviously wasn't going to interfere with my Orchid of Hawaii time, so I decided to check it out. The following night, I took a ride down and surprised Carl, because he and I hadn't seen each other for a little bit. But there I was in this new place called Joe T's, kind of out of the way in like a residential neighborhood down in Raynham, Massachusetts, almost to the East Taunton line. And it was a fun experience. Carl had been playing there for a little bit, not exactly sure how long he'd been there at that time. But I came in and was singing some of the songs that I liked to sing at that time. Again, we'd kind of moved away from Elvis. I was expanding and doing, songs by other artists. And I don't remember everything I sang that night or even how many times I sang, but I do remember specifically that I sang Deacon Blues by Steely Dan, one of my all-time favorite songs, and a song that I really enjoy singing. So I also met a couple of regulars there, including two nice young ladies with the same last name but were not related, Rhonda and Robin Perry. Perry's just a very popular name, and they were just not related in any way, shape, or form, but they were good friends and became friends of mine. So it was fun to meet them and to just kind of socialize with everybody there in the club. And good atmosphere, good vibe. Sports pub type of place. On the side with the karaoke was the lounge, I guess. There was a small dance floor in the area by the wall where Carl set up. And then on the other side of the very large bar were pool tables, multiple pool tables. I don't even remember how many there were in all, but hence the name Joe T's Pub and Billiards. And as it turns out, on the weekends they would have live bands, but Carl was there on Friday and Saturday night. But Carl was there with KP Productions to run karaoke on Sunday night. Excuse me, great time. I had a lot of fun there. This is the year is 1995, and it became my Sunday night spot because it wasn't too far from home. I could take the back road through East Taunton into Lakeville into Middleborough to go home where I was living at the time, and good times. And then ultimately, I would move out of Middleborough, move into Bridgewater, but that wasn't too far. That was just a quick jaunt down 104 to get to the area where Joe T's was. So even though I left Middleborough and was living in Bridgewater at the time, I was still able to frequent Joe T's on Sunday nights. And then later, about this time in 1990, well, a little bit later, 1996, about 96, because I'd already been living in Bridgewater for some time at that point, Carl added Tuesday night. So he was doing Sunday night and Tuesday night karaoke. And this is when I really started to meet more people. The aforementioned Robin and Rhonda Perry weren't frequenting the club anymore. They'd gone on to other things and what have you. But I did meet some people, some who became good friends and some who became, fleeting friends for a moment or whatever. And I also ran into some old friends from the borough. That's what we call Middleborough sometimes. I ran into guys like Sean Dirth, who I'd gone through elementary school with, and met up again with another good friend of ours, Mike Campbell, who unfortunately we lost about 3 years ago. Still don't even know what happened. I just remember getting the news while I was on vacation in Massachusetts. a few years back, and met some other people, Joe Andrade, Erlene DuPont, who later became married and became Erlene Willis, and Ken Willis, her future husband, Jeremy and Valerie Smith, and Eric Shepard, and Joe Andrade, and Barbara Brown. There was just this big group of people that always hung out at Joe T's, and we became the crew, so to speak. And we might not have always sang the same songs. We'd like to vary up our stuff, and we like to kind of challenge each other a little bit, and really have some fun, and sometimes dare each other to sing songs. That was kind of fun. They got me good one night. Eric and Joe got me real good one night. They put me up to sing The Way You Make Me Feel about Michael Jackson, and I'm like, oh, hell no, this isn't happening. And I just stared blankly at the screen until I sat down and said, no, not going to do this. But, that was just the kind of vibe it was. And I'm trying to remember some more people that came. Oh, Renee Hero, who ultimately later became Renee Carlson. She would come to the shows too. And there was another Eric who came. I can't remember his last name, but he ended up forming a band later on that would play the club on the weekends. And a lot of people that drifted in and out, a lot of people that you got to know. And of course, my brothers, Scott and Dave, they would pop in periodically. And Cousin Cracks, Michael Cragen, he would pop in every so often. There was another guy, Matt Torres, they called him Matt the Boy Toy. And Eddie Silla, and trying to remember some of the other guys that came in there, and girls. There was just so many people that came in and out of there, and some people who would come in and sing a song and they sounded great, and then all of a sudden you just never saw them again, or you saw them down the road, or what have you. Barry Tinkham, my old buddy Barry Tinkham would pop in every so often and sing some songs there, and but there was just about every name I mentioned became this core group of people that came into Joe T's every Sunday night and Tuesday night to sing. And we all got to know each other very well. And there were some couples, then some people would break off and date someone else, and what have you. And little drama would unfold here and there. And then around 1997, Carl Bach asked me a very important question. He says, Vic, Kimmy Spicer, the late great Kimmy Spicer, who was the Joe T's owner's daughter and head bartender, and overall manager of the place, really, came to Carl and said, can you add a third night? Because they were doing well. It was drawing a crowd. It was making money. That's the bottom line. And she said, can you add a third night? Can you add Thursday? And Carl was like, yeah, but I'm going to have somebody else run it, because Carl was doing the Riviera Cafe in Bridgewater, which is a place I'll just mention here because I only went there a handful of times. I don't really have a lot to say about the Riv, unfortunately, except that it had very good bar pizza. If you like bar pizza, the Riv, as it was called for short, fantastic pizza there. And nice people that hung out there, too. I don't know if he's still around, but my buddy Higgins, the biker guy I used to hang out with out there. Awesome guy. Higgins, hope you're doing well. But Carl was doing the Riv, so he needed somebody else to run Thursday night at Joe T's. And he approached me because he knew that I had done some stuff for Billy. And Carl was like, would you be interested in running the Thursday night karaoke at Joe T's? And I'll pay you, of course. And, we discussed that part of it. And I said, sure. Because at that time, I'm living in Bridgewater. I'm not too far. And I had nothing, I was going to go on Thursday night and hang out anyway because I loved Joe T's. I was there every karaoke night. I didn't really go so much on band night once in a while, but I was always there for karaoke night. Always enjoyed singing there. So when Carl asked me to run the Thursday night show, I was flattered and I was honored. The fact that he would have that much faith in me to run the show. And a lot of the people that I just mentioned would come into my show on Thursday nights. Some other people would filter in a little bit later on. People like Beth St. Germain, who's actually been a friend of mine since the early 90s. I'm still friends to this day. She would come in, and there was a girl, Dana, whose last name I can't remember. There was a guy named Ray Simpson. Now, I'm not talking about the second policeman from the Village People. There was another guy named Ray Simpson who would come in. Unfortunately, he's passed on. But he was a good friend of ours as well, and he would come in and he would hang out. And there were so many others. I'm so bad with names. Certain names pop out at me, and maybe as I'm talking some more will come up. But there was the crew that came in on Sundays and Tuesdays, by and large, came into my show on Thursdays as well. Because not only were they there to support Carl, but they would support me too. And I really appreciate it. Patty Duarte was another one. That's right, Patty used to come in from Taunton there. And old friend of mine, Renee Pepin, she would come into the shows. And God, I'm just trying to remember everybody. Oh shoot, how could I forget JP Marcoux? JP Marcoux lived within walking distance of Joe T's. He would come in, I think he was at Joe T's every night, no matter what was going on, even if it was a night where there was nothing. I think JP was there. So, this was the crew, and Kimmy's sister used to sing too. She was a bartender, but she would also sing. What was her name? Oh, tall lady. I can't remember her name for the life of me, but she did a good rendition of Roberta Flack's Killing Me Softly. Name will probably come to me later on. I don't know. But good times, good singers, good drinks, good food. Good food at Joe T's as well. Pizza, sandwiches, chicken wings, all kinds of stuff there. And this was the place, as I hang my head slightly for a little bit, this was the place where Carl dubbed me Sick Vic, spelled S-I-C, V-I-C. I earned the name Sick Vic because, in his opinion and the opinion of many who came, I was not afraid to do or sing anything. So the name stuck. And then Nikki Colburn, who came in later on and would sub for Carl on nights he couldn't be there, that would carry on the Sick Vic tradition, and we'll get more into that in another episode. But I became Sick Vic, and this is back in the days where you could smoke cigarettes in the bar, and I used to smoke cigarettes back then. I quit in June of 2012. But I remember there was an Easter Sunday where somebody took a picture of me. I don't remember who, but someone took a picture of me with a bottle of beer in my hand, a cigarette hanging out of my mouth, and bunny ears. And I'm holding the bottle of beer, and I was the extreme Easter bunny playing off ECW. And that was the other thing. A lot of the people that came in were wrestling fans. So, in fact, New England great Trooper Gilmore would come into my show once in a while, too. So, we were big wrestling fans, so we would incorporate wrestling culture into what we did and things like that. And everybody had their certain songs that they would like to play, to sing rather. But as far as playing, sometimes I would play a song and people would go out and dance on the small dance floor. And then the very little known song, unless you're a hardcore Village People fan, they had a big song, not a big song, they had a song in 1985 that was big in Europe and Australia, but not big here in the States, called Sex Over the Phone. YouTube it, there's a video, and there's some live performances. I would play that at my show at a certain point, usually about 10 o'clock, and we would all do the Big Wiggle, which was a dance done by pro wrestler Norman Smiley for WCW. I'm not going to get up and do it now. YouTube it. YouTube Norman Smiley doing the Big Wiggle. I know Beth knows what I'm talking about. And we would do the Big Wiggle during Sex Over the Phone. And it was one of those things that I think that most club owners, if a DJ were to do something like that, they would be like, no, you can't do that. Oh, no, that's not what we do here. You're supposed to. But I think because they knew it was me and I had a following, they're like, okay, this is something everybody looks forward to every Thursday night around 10 o'clock. So, so be it. So we would do that. And at the beginning of the night when everybody was just, filing in, I would play some songs. But then once those slips came up, I would build a rotation, and then boom, 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 we would go out. There was another guy, Russell Sharp, used to come into the show too. He was a big Kiss fan and a big rock and roll fan, and he would sing some songs. He'd bring his wife, whose name escapes me for the moment. But yeah, I remember Russell Sharp. He would come in, and it was a great crowd over at Joe T's. And once again, my buddy Sean Ullman, who I mentioned on the last episode, he would come and see me at the Orchid, but he would come see me at Joe T's too. Me and Sean were everywhere, even though we weren't purposely trying to hang out together. We just always ended up in the same place, whether I was hosting or just hanging out. And but it was a good time. In addition to my Thursday night hosting duties, I would still go on Sunday and Tuesday and hang out. And that was a good balance, because when I was hosting on Thursday, I didn't like to sing. I wanted to get everybody in the rotation up to sing. I might do one or two if someone asked, if someone made a request, but I would hold my singing for Sunday and Tuesday. And then Thursday I would host the show and try to get everybody else up there singing. That was something Carl taught me, as well, to showcase the crowd, and because it's really for them. I mean, if someone asks you, hey Vic, could you sing a song by, Barry White, or could you sing a song by Village People, or Kiss, I would oblige them. But by and large, I tried to keep the rotation going. Fair rotation, sex over the phone after 10 p.m., and, just a good old time. And like I said, some friendships were forged. Some of these people, Beth, Renee, Barry, still talk to some of these people to this day. Carl still interact with on Facebook every once in a while. But then there are some people that fell by the wayside. Eddie Silla, I don't know whatever happened to. I heard that he moved down here to Florida. I don't know for sure. Eric Shepard and Joe Andrade just kind of drifted away from me and maybe each other during the course of time. I don't know. Eddie Silla, like I said. Sean Dirth, I don't know what happened to him. And Mike Campbell, like I said, had passed on. So, I mean, there was a Christine Rebello, another girl that used to hang out there with us, and she passed away, unfortunately. So, not everybody's with us anymore. But, people are scattered about and running, around the country somewhere, living their own lives, doing their own thing. And I moved here to Florida, and, loving that. But I take with me a lot of great memories of Joe T's. And, there are some stories I could tell, some appropriate for a video like this, and some probably not so much. But I don't want to get into all that, except I will say, though, that there was a time about late 1998 into early 1999 when I was going to Joe T's all 3 nights for karaoke, because this was my chance to sing. But unfortunately, on a little bit of a sadder note, I'm not trying to bring anybody down, but this was also my way of escaping my home life, because over in Bridgewater, I was living with a woman that, I was not happy with, and I was just looking for a way out. And ultimately, my parents and my siblings came to my rescue and welcomed me back home temporarily for a bit, until a later time, which we'll get into later on in the series. But I was abusing myself pretty badly, because in addition to going to Joe T's, I was working a regular job, I was wrestling, and I was I would say probably like the takeoff period of my nursing home career at this time. I had already been singing in the homes for a few years at this point, but this is when I started going outside of the Kindred bubble. Kindred is a company that owns certain homes, one of which I worked for briefly, and I was starting to venture out into other companies, other towns, other cities, and that was going well. And like I said, I was holding a regular job and I was wrestling on the weekends, but it was a time in life where I didn't like being home. So Joe T's would be my escape. And unfortunately, there were some nights where someone had to take my keys and bring me home, and then the next day I'd have to get a ride down to the bar to get my car. And there were some other things I did there I'm not exactly proud of, just acting like a nutbag, really. I mean, I would sometimes, before I get up to sing, I'd drop to one knee and point to the sky like Sabu, or I would, just act like an ass, for lack of a better term. But yeah, I was young and dumb. We all go through that, I suppose. A lot of us, anyway. But if I had back the money I dropped at Joe T's, I could probably rent the state of Florida for a month. They dropped a lot of money in there. Not just on alcohol, though, on food too. Like I said, they had good food. And but this is on a more positive note. This is where Carl taught me the business more so than Billy. Billy just, I don't knock on Billy, but Billy just put me in front of the equipment and said, okay, here, have at it. Carl showed me the inner workings. He showed me the tuning to make people sound good, as far as bass, treble, and echo. He really taught me the mechanics, as well as the charisma. I already had charisma as a performer, so to speak, being a wrestler and already singing on the nursing home circuit and the club circuit. But I think I developed my persona at Joe T's, and unfortunately it was called Sick Vic, a name I don't like to be called by now. But thankfully nobody does that here in Florida. But after watching this, somebody might. Who knows? But that was, I thought this might be a two-parter, but I don't think so. I think this is where I can really end it, the Joe T's portion of the show. But I will say that in between, the next episode, I'm going to talk about the in-betweeners. So in between the Orchid and Joe T's and where we go next, the in-betweeners are a series of places that I didn't spend a lot of time in, but I spent some time in, and I have some funny stories to tell about them, and that's what we'll do the next time. For the next Karaoke Chronicles, we're going to talk about the in-betweeners. That's places like the Riviera Cafe in Bridgewater, and the Skip Sergio's in Whitman, Cam's Gardens, and the Maui, both in Abington, Massachusetts. During my time in Bridgewater, these are places that I explored, and again, didn't spend a lot of time. Walter's Pub in Whitman is another one. I didn't spend a lot of time at these places, but I'll talk about and reminisce about some memories that I have there, because I'm looking, this is over 20 minutes, so this has been the longest episode so far. Hope you're enjoying it. Please remember to like and subscribe and leave some comments at the bottom. Please be respectful and polite, as always. I want to thank my good friend Gladys CB for dropping some comments 2 episodes ago, and I want to thank everybody who's watched. Hope everyone's enjoying the music clips. I just put up my rendition of Casey and the Sunshine Band, Boogie Shoes. Hope everybody liked that. It's Vic saying, y'all be good now, and see you in the next episode.